Hi, my name is Paige Bridges, and I'm doing my speech over the NFL drug policies. Drug use among professional sports is a big issue in today's time. For the 2016 National Football League season, there were 28 suspensions throughout the year. 23 of these 28 suspensions were for drug related charges. That means that 82% of suspensions in 2016 NFL season were due to drug related situations. Over time, the use of drugs by professional athletes has become the norm. The use of drugs by professional athletes is overlooked by fans daily. The players pay their fine, serve their suspension, or go through a drug abuse program, and then they're back on the playing field living their dream. Many people think the drug use rules in professional sports are fine as they are, but overall, the consequences for the use of drugs while playing professional sports needs to be stricter and more consistent. In the late 2014, the National Football League, or the NFL, and the National Football League Players Association, or the NFLPA, released the new drug policy for the NFL. Were several main highlights in the new drug use policy. The first of them was that the players now have access to third-party arbitrators for all appeals. The old system allowed Roger Goodell, the NFL commissioner, to be the judge, the jury, and the executioner in all drug charges, basically giving him the power to do as he pleased with players. With this new third-party arbitrator, players will be more likely be allowed a lesser penalty because the third party is more than likely a football fan. Another shocking new policy is the marijuana threshold. The NFL used to consider a positive test anything over 15 milliliters of THC. But now, a test is not considered positive unless it shows at least 35 milliliters of THC. This new marijuana threshold is allowing players to smoke more. The NFL and the NFLPA tried covering this up by saying that the new policy gives room for players who are prescribed medical marijuana for health-related issues. The consequences for a positive marijuana test are also becoming more lenient. For a first-time offense, the player is required to attend a substance abuse program, but is not suspended from any playing time. The second positive test results in a 2-game fine. The third drug use offense results in a 4-game fine. It is not until the player's 5th positive drug test that they are actually suspended. The 5th offense results in a 4-game suspension. Therefore, by the NFL's new drug policy, a player can test positive for marijuana 3 times before actually losing game time on the 5th offense. For many of the players, dishing out the money for a fine is no problem at all. That is where the real problem is. Professional athletes, football players in particular, can fail drug tests and get away with it by paying money to the NFL. If the consequences were more detrimental, such as suspension on a first failed test, there would be fewer positive drug tests. The NFL medical trainers are also partially to blame for some substance abuse issues, especially with ones pertaining to narcotics. A veteran offensive lineman said in an interview with Tyler Dunn from the Bleacher Report, "I've hurt myself and they'd," meaning medical trainers, "be shoving pills in my mouth while they're taping my ankles. The culture was, we are going to play no matter what, so you might as well be comfortable while doing it." Most of the NFL players have admitted to being persuaded to take Toradol by their medical trainer before games. 98% of teams answered yes to the question, "Does your team issue Toradol?" Toradol can be injected or taken orally. Of 50 players interviewed by Tyler Dunn, all 50 said that it is most effective to take Toradol on game day, especially an hour or so before warm-ups. Many doctors consider Toradol extremely dangerous for professional athletes because not only do its blood-thinning properties leave players at a greater risk for a concussion, Toradol can also be used as a gateway drug to more strongly addicting narcotics such as tramadol or Percocet. In the NFL, players have access to prescription-strength painkillers in their locker room. All NFL teams retain physicians who examine players at the organization's facilities. This being said, narcotics are always a phone call away for players in any kind of pain. The NFL giving the players this option to get painkillers with a simple phone call really adds to the reason why so many NFL players have substance abuse issues. As of right now, there are no workplace rules regarding narcotics. If the NFL were to say, for example, No player can be on the field within 48 hours of taking a prescription strength painkiller. The number of narcotics handed out would drop dramatically. Players are using these painkillers to make it through these games painless and then become dependent on them for game time performance. So, not only should the drug use violations have more effective consequences, the NFL should have more policies on the doctors the teams are using. One of the biggest opposing arguments to stricter drug use consequences is that professional athletes have personal lives too. Yes, that is true, but they signed up for these standards. As a professional athlete, they are being watched by millions, whether they know it or not. There is some little kid out there who looks up to them and idolizes them, wishes they could be exactly like them. So, yes, these professional athletes do have personal lives, but their lives are also being broadcasted to sports fans everywhere 24/7. When they signed a contract with whatever sports team, they were signing their life away to the sport they love. By signing a contract, they were agreeing to abide by that organization's rules. Every professional sports organization has a no drug use policy, so the players cannot deny the fact that they did not know. A professional athlete would not like if the team they played for did not give them their agreed upon paycheck, so why should professional athletes think it's acceptable to break their contract that states no drug use? By signing a contract with a sports team, a professional athlete becomes an employee for that organization. Just as with any other job, professional athletes are not allowed to do drugs, no matter what their hobbies in their personal life are. Many people look up to these said athletes, people of all ages, young and old. Most important, young athletes tend to really look up to professional athletes. Little boys who play football look up to big-time football players like Des Bryant or Odell Beckham Jr., and they want to be just like them. They want to look just like them, they want to play just like them, act like them, everything. These little boys idolize these professional athletes who they dream to one day be. When all they see is these names in the news for a repeated failed drug test, it makes these little kids think that drugs are what professional athletes do and that it's part of the game. It makes them think that in order to be a professional athlete, I need to do drugs. Especially when they hear of a failed drug test but see their favorite player out on the field the next Sunday. It makes them think, if I'm a good enough player, it won't matter. I'll still get to play. And that is not the perception that these professional athletes need to be portraying to the children. That is another perfect example as to why the punishments for drug use violations should be harsher. If a little kid hears about a player failing a drug test but getting suspended for 5 games or so, the little kid is more than likely not going to want to try drugs, knowing they would get suspended as well. Overall, professional athletes get away with way more than a normal person would. If normal citizens were to get drug tested at their job and come up positive for marijuana or any other substance, they would more than likely be terminated immediately. It is ridiculous that just because these people are professional athletes, they get away with it. Being a professional athlete is the same thing as having a regular job, so they should be treated the same as any other employee. It is not fair that professional athletes get away with failed drug tests in their workplace. The only reason it happens is because the organization and the NFL know they need these players to win. It goes both ways because the players do it knowing they are good enough to get away with it and still get to play. While many people think the drug use rules in professional sports are fine as they are, overall, the consequences for the use of drugs while playing professional sports needs to be more stricter and consistent. Thank you.